Good evening, YouTube. Guess what? It is our favorite day of the week. It is Thursday night, and we are here for Ray.
Yeah.
Thirsty Thursday.
Thirsty Thursday.
Now listen. Matt will be joining us. Matt is somewhere between his office and his house. Will be there soon enough. But Ray, that doesn't mean that we can't get started here with our extra special Thirsty Thursday guest. Somebody that I was thinking about this a little bit, Ray. We probably know more about this guest than we have, the preceding, I don't know, whatever, 20 or 30 that we've had on, other than our first few episodes. We've gotten to know this gentleman a little bit leading up to this, and he's going through a process right now. Not nothing that requires surgery, of course, nothing like that, but something that I think a lot of people are going through. And so I'm interested for us to sit down and talk with this gentleman tonight. I'd like to introduce our guest this evening, the Lawn Warrior. Joe, how are you?
What's going on, everyone? I'm doing good. I figured I'd start this off I know.
Look at that. You got to.
I figured we start this off like a sports radio show. First time caller, long time listener. I don't know if you guys watch sports radio talk or listen to it, but yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll hang up and listen. So here's the thing is that there's a lot to unpack tonight. I think from this there's a lot of good messages I hope that will come out of it. And here's the one thing I want to preface this by is that you've put some content out that's been a little edgy. And listen,
of late maybe.
Well, yeah, of late, but here's the thing is that you're in company of people like Ray and Matt and myself that we don't mind being a little edgy when we need to be. And sometimes people confuse edginess with I wouldn't say being rude or disrespectful, but just telling it like it is, right? Ray, you like to tell it like it is, right? You have no problem doing that.
Yeah, I mean
that's how we do it where I'm from.
Well, that's good because then you see, then everything I have to say and the way I think is all going to be totally familiar to you because I just tell it like it is.
I would
no more, no less.
I would love to see Ray in his cowboy boots and his Wranglers walking down the street in Jersey. I would pay good money. So Ray, whenever you get back here to the continental United States, we're gonna take you to Jersey and see if you like that brand of the Kona.
Atlantic City.
Okay.
Well, wow. Here's the thing is I don't know because I've already figured out that I'm neither a West Coast person nor an East Coast person. I'm not.
At least you're starting to figure it out and narrow it down, and that's the most important part. And
no, I've already kind of decided because the thing is that both the East Coast and the West Coast, in various ways, reminds me a lot of Hawaii. And
yeah, I can see that.
Why would I want to go somewhere where I'm trying to get the hell out of? Okay.
Well, and that's a great segue. Say that line again for me, just to make sure I heard that right. Why would I want to go someplace that I'm trying to get the hell out of? Yeah, I think Lawn Warrior can relate to that, right? With some that he's done and some of the messages he's had here.
Yes.
Yes,
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. So, as we get started here, I guess just kind of give us the backstory. Who are you? Where are you? You don't have to be like, street number and house number and all that kind of stuff, but who are you? Where are you from? What are you all about?
Where I see myself in 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, strengths, weaknesses. I mean, you don't have the job yet. I just want to let you know you don't have the job yet. So we'll see how it goes at the end. We'll call you, when we want to. But go ahead. How did you get here in front of us?
All right, yeah. So Joe the Lawn Warrior. I started my channel probably almost about a year ago. It's been. I guess my journey begins when I was about 13 years old, growing up, my dad had a lawn business right here in Jersey. He worked 2 jobs. He had the lawn business during the day, during the summertime, and then at nighttime he worked at the post office. My mom, she's actually an accountant. I'm an accountant as well. She has MS, so he worked 2 jobs. So when I was about 13 years old, or as young as I can remember, I picked up a handheld blower, and I've been using it ever since. And then once I got older, I picked up the weed whacker, and then I just started working with him after school. So my experience when I was younger comes from more lawn cutting wise and not actually doing fertilization, working in the grass. It's mostly from lawn cutting. And so I pretty much worked with him all the way through high school, all the way up to through college. I went to community college, and then once I graduated community college, I went to a 4-year college, and I commuted to Rowan University. If anyone's familiar with Jersey, Rowan's a big South Jersey school. A lot of North Jersey kids go down to Rowan in South Jersey area in Glassboro, and I worked with them all the way through college, and then once I graduated college and went into my career field of accounting, I didn't really do much after that until I met my wife now, and we've lived in this house now for we'll be 5 years in February. We've purchased the house. We didn't actually move in until August because the house was a shit show. It was a foreclosure. It was really bad. And honestly, one of the last things that I really did to this house was the yard, was to do the outside. I did send, I think, Jay Pink a couple pictures of the house, what it looked like when we first bought it, and when we have it now, it's completely different. But again, going back into the lawn care journey, again, I started my channel about a year ago. Just following the other YouTubers out there, watching a lot of content. The Lawn Whisperer was one of the big ones I used to watch in the beginning. LCN, of course, I think everyone's watched a little bit of his his stuff. A GCI turf, Pete. There's the pictures right there. That's what it looked like when we first bought it. It was really bad. But at the time when we first got the house, I still had one of my dad's mowers. That was a 36-inch Exmark. That's one of the mowers the mower that I had that I sold. I actually sold it to a 9/11 first responder. Never forget. He really was happy to get it. Like I said, it was the first mower that I ever grew up on, and I learned to cut grass on. Now I have a Toro Super Recycler. Again, a lot of watching a lot of content there and seeing a lot of people have Toro lawnmowers. So I figured I'd get rid of my 36-inch mower because I wanted something a little bit nicer on my new turf that I planted. So again, last year I started my channel around November, and I did a fall overseed last year with Pete's GCI Tall Fescue blend. It came in really great initially. And then, of course, this year I had some troubles and things like that. This picture, actually, that picture right there was from I believe from last November. I think it was November. That picture might be from the spring there, but the other picture.
Yeah, I was going to say you titled these as April.
April. Okay, so that's probably April of this year, but that's the GCI there in April. But as you can see, the difference in the house outside, as opposed to when we first bought it. It was a shit show. But yeah, that's my lawn care journey so far. I've been doing this for 2 years now with newer grass, newly planted grass seed. And so far this is what I have, and I enjoy it. For me, it's more of a hobby, more than anything. When I initially got into YouTube, like I think a lot of people do, they get into YouTube because, they think there's a lot of money involved, or, you get, the affiliate links from people, and you put them in your video description. You think you're going to make a ton of money. And I got caught in that trap early on, I'll be honest. And but now I've seen little bit of the green light, and honestly, I kind of just want to make this more of a vlog going forward, and just want to document my journey, show you guys what I'm doing in my lawn. if a company sends me a product, I'll do a review. It's great. I don't mind, but I'm always honest in my reviews. I don't expect you to buy what I'm reviewing at the end of the day, because again, it's your hard-earned money that's purchasing these products. It's not my money; it's your money that you're using to buy products. So I want to give everybody an honest opinion. But again, that's why next year, I've harped on this at the end of my season this year, that I really want to change my channel. Going to next year, make it more of like a vlog, kind of how what's his name, Connor does. His is more of a vlog style, than anything. And that's kind of how I want to do it. I just want to document my journey, because at the end of the day, this is more of a hobby for me than anything.
That's one hell of a story. I know I kind of came in on the end of it, but it's still a great story. One second. Let me say goodnight to my son.
Okay.
All right. I had kind of a long day, so I haven't seen them, and they get a little needy when I'm gone for a long period of time. Man, I'll tell you, and I don't want to bust your balls over this at all. It's the YouTube thing is easy to get sucked up into. I'm guilty of it. Everybody who's done it is guilty of it, and it's funny. I kind of I go back to I'd say one of my big inspirations for getting out of the YouTube trap was AVE, right? And have you ever watched AVE?
No, you have to tell me what that is. Yeah.
All right. So it stands for Arduino versus everyone, and he is, I mean, just like crude as hell, Canadian as hell, like redneck Canadian, and just embraces it to no end. But he's just an incredibly bright guy. I mean, unbelievably bright. But he talks about how, you get into this thing with YouTube, and it's, where you're in YouTube studio, you're constantly refreshing, you're watching, what the subscribers are, you're replying to all the comments, and it becomes kind of this weird relationship, and it takes away from whatever the initial joy of it was, right? Because the initial joy of it isn't the interaction, because you don't have the interaction there, right? It's actually going out, filming something you're doing, learning to use a camera, learning to edit a video. And that part is, you fall in love with that, right? At least for me, that was the part that I thought was just so cool, right? I'm learning something new.
Yep.
It's in the digital space, and digital's cool, right? And I was like, oh, that's so great. And then of course, you do it, and then you get sucked into, how it is. It's just you get sucked into it. So
you do, and it's so quick too. You just it's addicting. And honestly, I'll remember like some of the really early videos that I did, and looking back at it now, you laugh about how bad quality they were, and like just different things like that. But yeah, and once you get involved and you have some of those prominent YouTubers, start commenting on your content, you're like, oh, you get all like giddy and you want more. And then, then you get those affiliate links and you put them in your description, and, you're like, oh, I'm going to make a ton of money on it. And then in reality, you don't, and then it's a little discouraging at times. And then, you find out more and more and more. And, I got into the Discord with you guys, and, learning more stuff about the community.
So sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You guys helped me a lot, realize a lot of things, and, helped me, change my approach to a lot of things. And, but I don't want the whole thing. I don't want all tonight to be about YouTube, honestly.
Hell no.
I just wanted, I want to just, put it out there, kind of like my journey with the YouTube, I almost call it like a program. It's kind of like almost like you get programmed to, do certain thing on YouTube early on. And I see a lot of new YouTubers out there. And again, I want to get off the YouTube spiel, but I see it a lot, and I just want to get my message out to other people as well. And I see these newer YouTubers that are coming out there, especially in the lawn care industry. And my word of advice. If you take it, fine. If not, I don't really care. But at the end of the day, just do your thing, and just do what you like. Don't think you have to do what other people do. At the end of the day, just do what you love. If you want those affiliate links, it's fine. But at the end of the day, it's do what you love to do. I mean, just like you guys are in your career right now, you guys all love turf management, and you love doing this channel, and you guys love doing this because you love it. You're not. I don't think you guys are all doing it for the money. I think you guys generally love to just do what you do. At the end of the day.
Yeah, we're
like to give shout
really big on this though. I want to make that.
Hey, I just want guys, I got to stop you here. I just want to give a shout out to Sean Smith in the chat. Since we're talking about YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, never mind.
So to date, all the money we have made doing this, we poured into the live show, which was incredibly expensive. And I don't think we've paid back J Pink entirely for that, but we will. Damn it, we're on tab, and J Pink's got great credit. So thank you, J Pink, for that. So. One
True
day
story.
we will get rich doing this. I'm telling you, Joe. It's just around the corner. That's what I keep telling my wife. So I'm sorry to even bring up the YouTube thing, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about it. And it's just as much a part of your journey as it is a part of mine too. So I'm not ashamed to admit it either. It is what it is, and everybody goes through a phase, and you want to be perceived as one of the good guys and on the good team and all that fun stuff, and then the real world catches up, and it's an odd thing. And the Discord definitely is a place where if you want someone to co-sign your bullshit, you will not find that very easily in the Discord. It's a place to go for shattered dreams and all the other stuff that goes on there, all the debauchery, and but it's
a whole lot of tell it like it is.
It's camaraderie. How about that?
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, was a whole lot of tell it like it is.
Yeah,
a lot of commiserating.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like what I said, where I'm from, we tell it like it is. So,
but I also think I think one thing about that though is when the camaraderie piece is this, and Matt Ray could tell you it's the same way at the pro level, is the people that really truly want to get better. Number one, know that it's never going to be finished, it's never going to be perfect, and they accept that. But they also chase it endlessly, and I think the folks that, hey, just tell me what to do, and I'll do it, and take all the nuance and all the challenge and all the art and the science and everything out of it, those just aren't our people. I mean, they aren't in the pro space. They're not anywhere else because there is no formula, right? There is no magic product. There's not the one thing that you can do to slay your lawn. Like, none of that shit. It's all a myth. It is. It's a myth. And so I just think it's always funny to watch people go through the journey, right, of however it takes them to get there, right? So whether it's, a young kid working on a golf course, it's, you buying your first house and getting your first lawn, or whatever the case might be, right? There's so many different people in between there. The people that truly do this and love it, right, at whatever level that is, whether it's their own house and they're not getting paid for it, all the way up to, the guy at Augusta National or something like that. It's the same pathway, right? It's just the scale, the stakes, the scope of it all just ramps up exponentially as you go higher and higher with those expectations, but it's the same journey, right? So I would just say that is, that's a good kind of separator, I guess, as we've gone through this and learned about different people, is the people that want the formula, that want the playbook, that want the like, you got to get past that. You got to get past that mindset and ascend. So Anyhow,
speaking of the formula in the playbook, did anybody catch the latest email from what's his nuts? Michael Woods,
I did not
Asian
read that.
Turfgrass Center. So it was interesting. He put out a little update about MLSN and was talking about what the MLSN most importantly is not, and talks about inaccurate implementation of MLSN, which I thought was pretty interesting. Because again, doubling down very aggressively on the MLS. Are you familiar with the MLSN, Joe?
No, I'm not.
All right, so the MLSN it stands for, it's an acronym for the minimum levels of sustainable nutrition, and it was developed through a series of thousands and thousands of surveys from turfgrass managers across the nation or globally. I can't recall.
Globally,
I
Matt.
think it was
Globally.
The world.
Yeah.
The world.
Global.
And so the idea was they could take these data sets and establish what the minimum of each nutrient should be to justify a response from a fertilizer application, right? And so it's kind of taking it one step further of the law of minimums or Liebig's barrel or something like that, right? Of actually quantifying what those are. And so it developed soil test levels that are a critical thresholds, right? That if you fall beneath that, you are potentially running into major issues with your turf grass. Or another way to look at it, in particular, that he kind of dove deeper into in this blog update was where you are most likely to see a response from your fertilizer application. And what he was talking about was not just if you were at MLSN levels, stop applying fertilizer. But if you were at MLSN levels, then you should be adding fertilizer to what you're doing, right? So, I think a lot of the whole reason I bring this up, you talk about the playbook, kind of the evolution of the industry over the last 10 years, I feel like, in order to uh, comply with external pressure, environmental pressure, evolutionary pressure that we kind of operate in the industry. It's become important that we become more targeted, more data driven with each input we make into a property, whether that be a pesticide or a fertilizer. And MLSN, from a fertility perspective, is kind of that next iteration, that next evolutionary kind of development of being environmentally focused, using a data backed decision making process for whether or not to apply fertilizer. And it's interesting, and as we kind of look through the information you've submitted us today, we can take a look at that from an MLSN perspective and help critique what you have coming up in the program you put together. Kudos to you for putting together that program. Take a look at it. Look nice. And then we can make adjustments based on what the MLSN tells us, because we know the MLSN tells us whether or not, not directly whether or not we need to apply a fertilizer, but more so whether or not we're going to get an impact from applying that fertilizer. And so, based on what you chose, we can determine whether or not that's actually a good fit for what you have planned there. So, how about them apples? Can we move on to that piece of it? Does that work?
That sounds good.
So here we are. Looking at what you did last year versus what you are planning for next year.
Yes.
So
yeah,
and I'm gonna. Oh, great! You have it broken out into NP and K right next to it.
Yeah. So,
okay,
like I was saying before the show, I'm an accountant, so I have everything in Excel, nice and neat. Yeah.
Gosh, look at that.
Yeah, this is perfect.
So just to give you guys an idea, so the top here, so this is one of the things I want to do better next year is definitely document things better. Not maybe exact date that I throw things down, I think is going to be helpful, but just not guessing. What I did is I went back to a lot of my videos to come up with the top here, just to get an idea of when I threw certain things down. And again, that's one of the things I want to do better next year is definitely document better when exactly I'm throwing things down. Soil temperature, air temperature, the whole 9 yards, just to get an idea exactly, the atmosphere, the environment, what's going on. So again, the top here is, I think it's pretty close to exactly when I was throwing certain things down. For instance, you could see there Milorganite sometime in June. That's like one of the areas I wish that I want to work on better. I want to know exactly how much of that Milorganite that I threw down. Like I didn't really weigh it out. I had a shit ton of it in the shed, and I kind of wanted to get rid of it. I didn't want to buy anything. And then obviously the hottest trend this past summer was Freedom Fertilizer. So I threw that down, quickly after the Milorganite. And then after that, after I threw down the Freedom, for everything pretty much just went downhill from there. I don't throw down herbicides in my lawn. That's one of the big controversial topics on my channel, just because my wife, she doesn't like that kind of stuff. She doesn't like herbicides, Roundup, anything like that in our yard. So I want to appease her by not doing that, and just strictly trying to stick to, different fertilizers if I can. And so that's why my program's pretty much this granular right here. There is some stuff that I didn't submit. I did throw down a bunch of liquids as well. A lot of GCF products as well. Some Hydroteen I threw down over the course of the year. But like I was saying, after pretty much, July 1st, everything went downhill from there until I went to do my overseed over Labor Day weekend, which is the 9-4 right there. And that's when I did, threw down my seed and my starter fert. And now I got everything, pretty much back to what I had it at the end of last year. A nice green lawn, pretty thick lawn overall. Again, my fall overseed this year. So just you guys know, I'm from Jersey, so we have a big sod farm. So this is a little bit of a plug for them, but I really do like supporting local companies if I can. And that's why I went to Tuckahoe Turf Farms, if you guys are familiar with them. They're a really big sod farm. They're located in Hamilton, New Jersey. So they're about 30 minutes from me, and they're like 30 minutes, but they're like in between me and Philly, kind of. So 30 minutes from me is them, and then 30 minutes from them to the shores, like Atlantic City. So they're pretty much like in the middle of our state, kind of. If the people that are from Jersey, they'll be familiar with Hamilton. It's known as the blueberry capital of the world. It's one of the biggest blueberry distributors in the country. I used to work in Hamilton a little bit as well, but anyway, I went to Tuckahoe Turf Farms this year. I actually got a tour of their facility. It's awesome. Over 800 acres of sod. They have Bermuda there. They have KBG. They have Tall Fescue. Their big seed distributor is Mountain View Seed. So I went with their Mountain View Seed blend this year. It was a 90-10 blend, 90% Tall Fescue and 10% KBG. So that's what I threw down this year for my seed. And I was talking about this with Ray a little bit before the show, that we were talking, it was funny, Matt, we were talking about centipede grass. And my parents, my parents moved to South Carolina probably about almost 2 years now. So they actually have centipede grass in their yard. And we were saying,
Lord have mercy,
we were saying how grass, that's the centipede grass, it doesn't really need much done to it. My dad, he still cuts, he still has go ahead, Ray.
Doesn't want anything done to it. And the more you touch it, the more you screw around with it, the worse it gets. In other words, a yard mastery style program on centipede would probably make that lawn go belly up in 1 year, because you're putting too much shit on it, and probably the wrong things.
I don't think he's doing much to the yard these days. He's retired, working 2 jobs for 30 years that he wrote, other than cutting the grass, and they have their garden in the back. He's good. I mean, he doesn't want to do too much to that grass right now. But but yeah, we're going back to the grass seed. Down there, it's very like a lime greenish color almost. I would say the centipede. It's not like a dark green color. And then with the mountain, we were saying before the show that the Mountain View seed, and I definitely noticed that this year throwing that down, it came in like pretty dark right from the beginning, which I was really surprised. And it's stuck. It's been green, and even to today. And I'm just starting to notice it check out for the year. It's starting to, finally check out. We're starting to get pretty cold here at night. Of course, you have those warm spells sometimes here, especially in Jersey. Sometimes in November it can get pretty warm, and even in December. But for right now, it's starting to go back to being pretty cold again. But yes, that's a little bit about my overseed that I did this year. I definitely love that Mountain View seed. It's super nice. And again, if I said to myself that if a sod farm in Jersey can grow really nice grass, and they distribute it, they do a lot of professional teams throughout the Northeast. If they can grow that seed there and it look as nice as they can, I'd rather try and do something a little bit more local to me. Hopefully that's going to do a lot better too.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing negative to say about Mountain View seeds at all. That's of all the seed producers I've used, which not a ton. I have not, my career in a cool season market is, limited to 4 years, right? So I haven't tried 1,000 different seed growers and 1,000 different varieties. I've probably used in 4 years, and where I got to use a few different varieties was doing a lot of the stormwater remediation projects. I got to experiment a little bit there because you're dealing with such intense water flow and stuff, and steep angles of slopes, but Mountain View was at least my favorite of the ones I tried, which is relatively limited. I want to make that clear. So with that, J Pink, can you pull up his plans again? And I want to make a note of his total N, P, and K real quick. Okay, and then 1.1 of this. All right. Okay. Now, can we look up his soil test, J Pink? All right. This is from Logan Labs. And here we go. We're gonna take a look at these here, and
just a little backstory on the soil test. So, yes. I took the soil test probably. I think it was sometime in October. So so obviously I had FERT down from the starter fertilizer. I think I might have threw down I threw down I think a half a pound of N of the flagship at the time. I did pull pretty big cores. I went pretty deep when I pulled them out, but I have a feeling that that my soil test reflects that as well. So my goal next year is obviously going into the spring before I throw anything down. I definitely want to get another soil test, done just to see where I'm at for a starting point as well. So just to take that into light when you guys are looking at that, at this soil test here.
Yeah, and that was when I was looking at this earlier today, and I saw your phosphorus levels at 400 what is that, 490 parts per million of phosphorus. I was like, my goodness, that is either immediately after an application or you're on top of a phosphorus mine or something. Which is incredibly high. And where does that settle down to? It'll settle down a fair amount, but gauging by where that is right now, one of the things we know about phosphorus is that it tends to not leach very much, and as long as you have decent density, it's not going to run very much either. So you said it grew in real well. When I look at this, under no circumstances whatsoever would I feel it necessary to apply any more phosphorus moving forward for at least a year, if not 2 years. Then the next thing I noticed, so N, P, and K primarily is where we like to focus, because that's the our macronutrients, right, or at least our three dominant macronutrients. and so the next one would be K, right? And you're at 100 and roughly 120 parts per million. We'll call it that for ease of math. And with that gives you some flexibility of being able to apply some K if you want. Do you need to apply K? Probably not for next year. And so that kind of opens up a little bit of flexibility here in terms of dollars spent on your product, right? Now, I'll tell you that I'm going to have my own way of approaching this. Ryan will probably have one a little bit different, and Ray will have one a little bit different too. I'm going to give you from a lawn care perspective. I pull this soil test. I'll tell you exactly how I would do this. I would apply only urea in the upcoming year, right? You have a crazy amount of iron in your soil. You have
all that bionite.
Exactly. You have a low pH, right? So that means you have a higher propensity for iron availability. And if you wanted to add something to trick that out, look at your iron to manganese levels there. That's pretty extreme. So if it were me, I would apply urea, and if I want to do something a little tricky and feel like a wizard, I might run a little chelated manganese on the lawn. All right, or I might even just spray a little manganese sulfate. And that's a real easy tank mix that you can do. You can dissolve urea in your tank, and you can dissolve manganese sulfate in your tank. You don't need a bunch of it. You're not dissolving a pound per 1,000 square feet. You're dissolving an ounce per 1,000 square feet, right? And make your foliar application in a super simple approach. Now, the one thing that I would say is not 100% necessary at this point, but something to keep in your radar is as you move into the fall, is lime, right? And
they actually did recommend it. So where I got the soil test from, it's a local place in Malka Hill, New Jersey, close to me. They actually have an agronomist on site that he looks at the soil test as well, and he suggested to 25 pounds per 1,000 square feet of calcitic lime. Put the 25 pounds down in the fall, and then put another 25 pounds per 1,000 in the springtime for the pH level. So I did put 25 pounds per 1,000 of calcitic lime down in the fall. Do you recommend putting down more in the springtime for the pH, or get another soil test in the springtime and then see what the pH is?
Yeah. You could do it again this year. I wouldn't be so. It's probably not necessary to hurry up and jump back on it and test it and see if it moved 0.2 of a point or whatever. You put down 25 pounds, and depending on where it was derived from, here's the other thing. Do you have to apply calcitic in this situation? No, you can apply dolomitic. You're at, 99 parts per million of magnesium. You're free to, whatever's cheapest, whatever has your finest grind that you can get for the cheapest available price, go for it. Right. And again, where you are, and we talked about MLSN, and let me give you some numbers here that would be considered like critical numbers, right? Where as you approach this, we're talking about, issues really starting to arrive. Typically for phosphorus, they're going to say 37 parts per million. There is some research on cool season grasses, not specifically tall fescue. I think it mostly centers around bent grass. But there, and this is through, who was it? Doug Soldat and Travis Shaddix. They think closer maybe to 10 parts per million would be more of an appropriate critical level for soil phosphorus. Obviously you're at 450 right now, or 490, and that's inflated because of your soil phosphorus, but you're not going to lose 400 parts per million and be left with 40 parts per million of phosphorus, more than likely. So that means you're free there. You don't have to apply it with K. I believe K is 35 parts per million. And according to Michael Wood's research, he began to see, and this is pulled from their data collection. 50 parts per million is where they saw the beginning of problems, outliers, right? So maybe 1 out of 100 had a problem at 50 parts per million. Me personally, I manage things of making sure I'm nowhere near 50 parts per million, right? When I dip below 100 parts per million, that's when I add K back to my program. That's just my own psychological thing that I do in my own plan. Is that where you need to be? No. Can you run it lower than 100? Yes. But that's where I am. You're over 100 here, right? You're at 120 parts per million. So, that's why I'm saying, do you need to apply it this year? No. If you want to apply a little bit, can you? Yeah. I would not make a potassium only application, right? So I don't think there's any reason for you to go spray potassium acetate or potassium carbonate or an application of sulfate of potash on your lawn. I wouldn't approach it that way. But if you buy a fertilizer that is a 2404, you got it laying around, or a 1505 or whatever, and it's on sale for $7 a bag or something. You're like, man, I want to pick it up. It's a screaming deal. It still is applicable to apply to your lawn because that little bit of potassium, you're not blowing the bank on a totally wasted application there, right? So there's still some necessity for it. So that would be my approach. That would be the cheapest way that I could approach this. Manganese sulfate is relatively cheap. Urea is cheapest, dollar for dollar product that you can apply, and no real bells and whistles, but you can have a stand-up yard. Now, guys, I'll ask y'all to chime in on this, and then where I want to go from that is I want to talk about what happened specifically in his area from July 1st moving on last year, because that was a bit of a pain point. But first, y'all are looking at this. What are you doing?
A few things. Okay, so I want to dive into what's listed on that program for 2022. So, soil test is, I agree with you guys. Like, the other thing I see there's, the OM is pretty high. Like, hey, you don't need to go crazy with organics and things in that nature. You might end up, I wouldn't say hurting yourself, but not helping yourself in the long run. So let's flip back over to that program, J-Pink. And I want to talk about the bottom here. So, we're talking about, this is the program you laid out. So first of all, just tell us, like, where is this program derived from? How did you conceptualize it? And what were you thinking when you did it?
All right. So my approach for next year is I really want to shop local next year. I don't want to shop from a salesman that lives in Florida. I want to shop, local to New Jersey. Yeah, I wonder who that could be. But yeah, I just, I want to support my local companies. So that's why I want to use between two different companies. One, the guy that this program's from, he's in like north central Jersey-ish, I'll say. The company name's called Plant Specialty. He's more focused on organic fertilizers. And I know organic, it's a very, it's one of those terms, not everyone agrees with if everything's organic in the bag or not to call it organic. But anyway, I want to use, one of these companies, and so this is his program that he lays out here. It's a mix between a granular and a liquid form, as you guys can see here. That's what I have labeled on that left-hand column there. And then he lays it out by rounds. He has it as so round 1 all the way to round 6. But his program, since it is a more organic based fertilizer, it's obviously more slow release than a synthetic. So he's looking at intervals between 40 and 45 days between each application. And as you can see there, his main fertilizer, his main granular source of fertilizer is an 1825. And then the other ones there for his liquids it's a macro fuel at 1803 and another micro fuel at 100. I did send J Pink the actual analysis, like the actual screenshots of the fertilizers as well, just so you guys can see what it's derived from. If we want to get into that, we can, but we do have the screenshots of them as well, what the different items are derived from.
We want to get this all up in that.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. But like I said,
yes.
I want to gear my program next year to more local companies, and that's why I went with this for next year. So this is what you did this program next year, this is what I would do. Essentially, this is what this spreadsheet is here.
Okay. Let's just run through the products first because I want to understand them. I mean, Ray, Matt, I don't know what y'all know, but I know nothing of this company. I'm not saying it's a bad company. If I was doing this on my own, this is how I would dig in and do the research, and we're just going to go through it live.
In 1825, I'm guessing is a biosolid blend. Typically, when I see things like poultry. That, I think of Scream and Green. I think, okay. So ammonium, urea, sulfate of potash, and poultry. Okay,
yeah, it's all. I'm reviewing the product labeling right now, and let's just say that I can make the program even simpler and less expensive.
Agreed.
Yeah, I can make it simpler and less expensive because even for me, I buy local too. Because by the way, the various people in say Florida or even a good guy in Tennessee, these people cannot ship me stuff to Hawaii anyway. So, as a result, whatever I apply cannot be fillers, fluff, or any BMS. It has to be 100% fertilizer.
If you mix fillers and fluff, do you get fluffers, Ray? I hope we do.
No, you don't get that kind of fluffer. So I'm even more bummed out. Okay, Ryan. I'm even more.
If only
upset.
they had those. If only they had those at the local Site One or Ewing. But moving on. Okay, so this is the granular. Let's look at this.
Yeah, we'll start here with the granular real quick. Hang on, and kind of my comments on it are,
sure.
Nothing majorly wrong with this formula. This would work for you. My only thing is that you're already so high in phosphorus that spending the money on a product that contains phosphorus, and you have to understand phosphorus is the most expensive input this upcoming year. There is zero reason to apply phosphorus at all. Like there are more reasons for me to tell you. Yeah. There's more
negative reasons
for you to not apply phosphorus than there is reasons for you to apply phosphorus. So you're spending money on something just that's costing $1,500-$1,600 a ton in bulk right now. So for those 2 units of phosphorus that come along with that, even though it is derived from poultry manure, you're still paying an extremely inflated price for something that you don't need just because it's tagged along in the back, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ray.
And on top of that, here's my other question: is do you know how much poultry manure are you getting, and do you understand the nitrogen release characteristics of something that is derived from poultry manure? Because I have somewhat of an understanding of materials like that, and if I were dealing with a cool season grass in a place that has warm and humid summers, I, for one, would be extremely cautious about applying anything touted as organic or organic-based nitrogen.
I'll crank that up a step further and just say tall fescue in the mid-Atlantic with 4+% organic matter, Ray, and then you just throw a little bit of that poultry manure on there for the fire. So when we get hot and wet together, that is gonna fire some stuff off that you do not want to have in brown patch season. Right?
Yeah, don't you just have that nice visual of I don't know, decay? Because I don't only think about brown patch now, because do you know what gets me when there's too much organic matter or organic matter derived fertilizers on the ground and I'm at the wrong time of the year? You know what gets me?
What do you got?
Antipicium. Antipicium comes up and she just says, "Party's over, kid."
I mean, you're going to have that. You're going to have a variety of issues being too juiced up. So what we're saying is this, Joe, is that, the release characteristics are like this. You need moisture and you need soil temperatures to be up to release the nitrogen in that poultry manure, right? That, depending on source and everything like that, somewhere between 6 and 16 weeks, right? Depends on the weather, depends on a bunch of myriad of factors. But what the point is, though, is that you do not want to be releasing all that stuff when you get really hot and really wet environmental conditions. Because now you've got a recipe for a really, really succulent, juiced up plant, and that is times when your susceptibility to plant diseases are at its highest. In an environment where they're already at their highest, and no joke, in the Mid-Atlantic, the pathogens are present, so you got to be careful. Nitrogen management is going to be a real key of you ascending and taking your lawn, quote unquote, to the next level, right? So you got to think about that when you're going through this. So let's look at, it looks like you back off into summertime and go full blown liquid, which nothing wrong with that. I think, there's a case to be made here, gentlemen, that, I mean, especially with where he's at all the way around.
So
right?
it got pretty warm here. Obviously, Jersey, the temperatures. Honestly, this year, we might have saw 100 one day, maybe 2 days in the summertime. But it gets very humid in Jersey, I would say the summer was hot this year, but it wasn't anywhere near it like it normally is, or like I've seen when I was younger. But it does, it was, for the most part, I would say it was, I don't know, somewhat dry, but we did get rain. And at times when we did get rain, it wasn't like a flash flood kind of rain. It was more of like a hit or miss kind of rain throughout the summertime.
Add to the humidity, right? Add to the humidity, right, Joe? And that's like speaking to what Ryan is talking about, where with certain nitrogen sources, warm, humid, but then not enough water to truly sustain the grass. To me, that's just when I am literally on ultra high alert as far as disease watch goes. I'm on really high alert, and
so Matt kind of wanted to get into what happened this year, and if we want to go back there, we can. But that's
hang on, we'll get there in a minute.
We'll go, yeah. But that's kind of essentially what my downfall, I think, was in this year was. So just to give you a background with my house, I put a DIY sprinkler system all in myself. That's on my channel as well, showing people how I did it. It's the very unconventional way. I use funny pipe as the pipe to run my sprinkler system. And this year, so what I did was I put it in the ground last fall, but my coverage wasn't the greatest. So this year I kind of expanded on that coverage for the sprinkler system. So it didn't help the fact that I had that nicely established lawn in the fall. And then in the springtime, I was trying to mess with the coverage. So I was digging trenches and doing a bunch of different things. So now I finally got my sprinkler set for next year. And I'm running MP rotators in my sprinkler system. I kind of like those heads a lot. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like they get a more even coverage on the sprinkler system than regular like impact style or rotor style sprinklers. But yeah, so going back to the sprinkler system, so it's not a conventional system. I do have it all ramped back to a nice Bluetooth system now. If I could do it over again, I would do it completely different and just probably have somebody do it for me. But I like doing things myself. I'm a DIY kind of person. So you live and you learn kind of thing.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong. I mean, I won't down you for wanting to do your own irrigation system because do you know who else I get into fights with? I literally get into fights with these people. Guess who else I get into fights with?
I don't know.
Irrigation installers. We hate each other. We really hate each other. I mean,
say it ain't so, Ray.
This is how nuts. My wife calls me the human mole because I will literally go out. So you guys know I have kids, so I'll go out at night at 8:00 at night after we get done putting the kids to sleep, and I got my headlamp on my head, and I'll go out there, and that's what I was doing during when I was installing the sprinkler system. I took my spade, and I'm just digging the trenches along, and flipping the sod over, and then running the pipe. And this year, I wanted to get the sprinkler heads out to the sidewalk side of the street, so I actually built a bore, like a water bore, kind of like what they use to bore tunnels. So I got I forget what size PVC it was now, like 3/4 PVC, and then glued on the ends to put a hose on the one end and have like a nice brass thing on the end, and I was just going back and forth with the bore, and then it was nuts, but you know what? I got it underneath the sidewalk, and everything's in place now. So I don't have to mess with it next year. All I got to do is hook up the water, and then I'm good to go. But I don't mind doing stuff. I honestly don't mind going out there, getting my hands dirty. I have a DIY channel as well that I like doing different, like these wood signs I have behind me right here. I like doing stuff like that. So I don't mind getting my hands dirty and doing different things.
Yeah, I don't have that ability. So kudos to you.
Or patience.
Well, let's say I will say one thing. I don't have a ton of patience either. Sometimes there may be stuff that gets thrown, when you get frustrated. So.
That's just the Jersey in you, though. Everybody I know from Jersey is real quick to throw shit. It happens all the time. Here's the macro fuel liquid fertilizer. So urea, methylene urea, fruit rind potassium, and trace elements. I don't see any trace elements listed on here, so I don't know what that is. But as far as an analysis, in 1803 works perfectly fine. It's a slow release liquid, so I've got nothing, no problem with this here. It's interesting. It's an artisan formula. I've never seen that on a label claim.
Okay,
that's pretty interesting. That's but hey,
they were
kind of like artisanal water. I'm sure I got a bottle around here.
Well,
I think it's a little
aprons.
Artisanal.
I think it's a more of a Northeast kind of thing. That artisan thing. Like you see it on a lot of like different labels and stuff. The artisan.
It's hipster. It's hipster.
Yeah.
Because what would make me buy this, if I could get a hold of it, is lose the fruit rind potassium, lose the molasses. Because for me, I am totally a fan of methylene urea. Because methylene urea,
my boy, Ray.
as a sprayed nitrogen source, especially during times when your potential for burn or or issues is higher, methylene urea is as good as you can get because I have fond memories of this product that I used to use that had I think a 2800 analysis, and it was 70% other water soluble nitrogen.
You could still get that
So
one.
it was,
Well,
yeah,
not now, but
yeah. Well, but that was my kicker to add to my existing liquids so that I could get a guaranteed 45 days worth of nitrogen response out of the fertilizer. But since then, I've gone even more economical and I now use something called stabilized urea technology. And the stabilized urea technology, it's sprayable and it will give you a nitrogen response for at least 45 days. And it's very predictable. But this is a rather predictable product too because of the methylene urea.
what I was advocating before was that given all the circumstances with this yard, right? I think you could make a case that Joe here could take, if he wants to use this product and shop local, and hey, I'm not going to stop him and say, hey, don't use it. I think there's some, it's like you said, Ray, there's some stuff in here that is in there that you're paying for that doesn't add a ton of value. But again, like, are you going to find a better product as local, all that kind of stuff? So what I'm saying though is that, if you wanted to go out every, 4 to 5 weeks and just run, a quarter pound of this, it's not bad. I mean, it's not. It's one other way of doing it. Not advocating that you have to do it that way, Joe. But if you wanted to do it, you could. Just because granular wise, if you're not going to run just like straight urea, you're kind of, again, same thing. You're paying for stuff you don't need.
Let's just say that
one thing. Let me clarify one thing real quick. When you see fruit rind potassium on a label, it may be potassium derived from a fruit rind. However, the sources of potassium that occur in the fruit are going to be the exact same chemical analyses that we use in fertilizer, right? So you're going to see traces of potassium chloride. You're going to see potassium sulfate. You're going to see potassium carbonate. You're going to see potassium malate. That is what is going to exist in these potassium sources. So it may be derived from fruit. However, it is the exact same chemical composition that you would find in a fertilizer. So just one thing to keep in the back of your head, that is it doing anything that you're not getting from a traditional potassium source that you may be buying over the counter? No, it's the exact same thing. It's just plant derived in this case. So
it's all the fruit rind
peels
peels though from Whole Foods, Matt. It's artisanal,
Oh, that's right. That's right. Does it come with a man bun? I'm just curious.
I don't know, but
honestly,
I
the
pick
guy
on
that runs
man buns because I'm
company-
jealous. I can't grow hair up there, so I'm jealous.
I get all my groceries from Whole Foods.
Of course you do, JP. What were you saying?
No, it was
Joe. I cut off
the
Joe,
guy.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Matt. The guy that runs a company, he's like a straight, like kind of like me kind of guy, like from Jersey. He's not like a hipster or anything like that. He's very knowledgeable. I've talked to him a lot on the phone. He's helped me out a little bit this year in the fall time. But I don't know if I put that on here, the price of everything. I don't think I submitted everything for the price wise. What I did actually. So
actually, yes, the prices are all down. Yeah, the prices are all down. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I did. I mean, you could see I'm going to save a considerable amount of money just going to that program. I mean, which is great. At the end of the day, that's why I'm advocating on YouTube right now, is for people to shop local, because honestly, there's probably a lot of local fertilizer companies that people probably just don't realize that are local to them, that they could save a ton of money and not buy from someone from, Florida all the time. And, that's why that's why I kind of want to shop local, because I know I can save money, from the shipping costs and just not buying overpriced fertilizer again from somebody from Florida. And like I said, the top spreadsheet here doesn't even include the liquid fertilizers I spent. I'm like almost embarrassed to say what I spent in liquids too, because it was
No,
if
it's
my wife's
okay.
watching, she's probably saying I'm going to kill you,
We saw
So-
someone pull out 9 different gallon containers to make a single application one time. So it happens.
No,
It's-
we've
happens
seen
to
somebody
a lot of
fill a
people.
ride. Seen a pro pull out a ride-on sprayer, Matt, and have 90% product and 10% water.
Maybe, yeah.
Yes,
Remember that
we
one?
saw that. We saw that
Yeah,
too.
actually-
So
there was no water in that, by the way. That was
I was
all
being
just
generous.
mixed concentrates, and why it layered so aggressively. Which so trust us, nothing
It
shocks
happens.
me. I have done that before. Listen, when I was an applicator, this is no lie. The first thing I did where I learned not to do that is back in the day. One of my tank mixes that I ran was diluted into sufficient water that I could run a combination of it was a product called Tri-Power from New Farm and MSMA back when we could spray that. I combined those two, and if you do it in sufficient water, you can get away with it. However, if you combine concentrates, it turns into a solid mass, like a brick.
it turns
a
into
literal
turn-
brick.
yeah, it just coagulates and solidifies. So that's just the follies and pitfalls and catastrophes of all of these liquids. Although I am going to throw shade right now and say the good thing is that with a lot of these proprietary liquid fertilizers, it's a good thing most of what you're paying for is water. Okay? Most of what
it
you're paying
helps
and a-
stabilize the solution. Water
Yeah,
is the great buffer, the great solvent.
well, the universal solvent, because for me, most of what I apply all comes to me in 50-pound bags or 25-pound bags as a dry material. I deal with my own water.
Let's take a look at the last product here, the microfuel. Now,
Mhm.
again, is our micronutrients something that you're just absolutely needing to go apply to your yard? No. Like, can you?
No.
Yes. If you're color chasing, I get it. Everybody does it. Go for it. The one thing that I do like about this is, it's a good ratio of manganese to iron, and considering you're off the charts on iron and about where you should be on manganese, I'd say you'd get a pretty good color response from this. So yeah, I've got no problem with this. If you want to use this as a micronutrient product too, I think you're in good space here as well.
My goal,
So, and-
my just going back to my program for next year, my goal is to stick to a program and just stick to that program and not go nuts, trying different products and different things, and seeing the latest trend on YouTube and trying that product, and I want to save a ton of money as well. And I think I will with this program here, maybe tweaking it a little bit, here and there on different things. Maybe I can even, like you guys were saying, I could even save a little, even more money. I mean, that's my biggest thing going into next year is, saving money and not spending a ton of money. And, honestly, I think when it comes to YouTube, a lot of people chase, what's the latest trend and, wanting to throw down that product and to get content. I mean, that's what a lot of people are there for YouTube. I know I'm going back to the YouTube thing again, but it all plays into this. But people chase that content. They look for new things to do. And next year I just want to stick to something and do it, and then see my results at the end of the year, kind of thing. That's what I'm looking forward for next year.
Well, the only thing, my only recommendation of looking at your program next year is I would drop the granular in favor of just straight urea. Would be my only thing. If you want to trick it out and you get a little urea and slow release urea, like a 3300 or something with a little PCSU in it, maybe that's fine. But given your time of year that you're actually making these applications, I don't even see the need for you to do that. So if you want to spend a little extra money to trick out urea, maybe a U-Flex or a U-Max. But that would be the only thing, just because you have, under no circumstance whatsoever, do you need to be applying any more phosphorus to your lawn. Like, you're sufficient for a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got a lot of phosphorus that's probably going to be available for a long time.
So let me ask you this. This is going to be probably a dumb question, but why is it that when you go to do an overseed, a lot of people always recommend a starter fertilizer when it sounds like you really don't need phosphorus? Or like, I guess depending on each person's lawn. For instance, my lawn, you don't need phosphorus, but people always drive home that you need a starter fertilizer when you go to do an overseed. Why is that? I don't know if it's a thumb, but I'm just curious.
2 reasons. 1, the formula, being told what to do, that's what you're supposed to do, that's what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2, there you go. Those are your 2 reasons. People telling you to follow a playbook, and people telling you to follow conventional wisdom without any reasonable explanation of why you should do this.
Old wives' tales. It's just beat into you, and people who have the faintest hint of radio grass knowledge, right? They listen to their local county extension agent on the weekends, on the Saturday morning show. Neil Dempsey gets up there and he talks about his 4
Thomas samples on the radio.
That's a great question. We're gonna put us down a little starter fertilizer, and who's calling? I forgot your name. So this is legit. Neil Dempsey is one of our county extension agents here. A phenomenal guy. Like, I love him so much. He's a big, giant, jolly bastard. And he also got on the radio in the midst of talking to people about their lawns and their gardens and stuff. And he said he was a big advocate of the 4 major food groups, and that was alcohol, cholesterol, nicotine, and oh man, I can't remember the other one. Caffeine and nicotine, right? Alcohol, cholesterol, caffeine, and nicotine were the four redneck food groups, he called it, right? So again, it's just kind of conventional wisdom, and it just becomes it's a way of making things incredibly simple for people, right? It's kind of like the word winterizer. It is purely a marketing term. Winterizer is a marketing term, and it used to mean applying a lot of potassium in the fall. Well, through conventional research, what we saw is that in certain instances, on certain grass types, loading your soils with potassium in the fall can lead to increased instances of snow mold. And so all of a sudden, our winterizer fertilizers took on a different thing, and then now it's more of a nitrogen dominant fertilizer, right? But you attach the name winterizer to it because that's what you hear on the radio. That's what you hear the guy at Lowe's talk about. It's easy to identify with. It's easy to market behind. And because if you just heard it in passing, it's something that registers with you, right? Same thing with starter fertilizer, all that fun stuff. So it's purely for market recognition.
I honestly,
Ray, there's a lot. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. honestly, I think I saw a better response last year when I did my overseed with the X start. Is that what it was called? The X.
You didn't. You're dreaming.
This is all my honest opinion is I felt like the lawn filled in thicker last year with the X green and X start than I did this year with my starter fertilizer that I used this year, the 12-12-12. I don't know. Who knows?
I put pure magic in that motherfucker. That's why.
You did. I bet you did.
Pure magic right out of my back pocket. I'll never tell you what's actually in that shit. It is pure magic.
So, Joe, I like the visual. I'm
Links
a visual
in the description
person.
below.
So
just kidding. It's out of business.
It really looks low. Anyway, I like visual wise, and as you can see here, this is what my lawn looked. J-Pink, when was this one labeled?
November 28th.
November 28th. So this is essentially from what my lawn looks like now, or at the end of the overseed after doing the Mountain View seed, as opposed to those other pictures with the peat moss on the ground. But I'm happy with my result this year. My goal next year is to keep it like this, so I don't have to start over essentially again this year, next year. But I'm happy with it. At the end of the day, no lawn, in my opinion, no lawn's gonna be perfect. It's pretty much the greenest lawn on the block, and I like the people that will walk by and they'll look down sometimes and they'll be like, it looks pretty good. That's always a good feeling too. But going back to the fertilizers that I'm going to use for next year, I know that synthetic fertilizers, I think there's more of a salt. Is it index or more of a salt in them?
Index.
Yes and no.
Index.
Yes and no. Yes
is there
and
any
no,
concern?
because
Is there any concern with my soil tests with this kind of fertilizer that I'll be using with that, or no?
No.
Nope.
Salt indexes can, as long as you're within label rates, you have to remember salts are very, very soluble, right? So it takes very little water to move the salt through your soil profile. Accumulation of salts in your soil profile occur when you do not have when you do not adhere to proper application rates. And then there's some other things that can exacerbate issues like black layer and all that kind of fun stuff that can create some anaerobic conditions. And but we're not there. We're not seeing anything like that. If you pulled a probe from your soil and you see a very, very you go down 2 inches and you have a black layer that's made of like what feels like steel, then that's a totally separate issue, and you would be dealing with you would come on the show and be like, oh my God, something is so screwed up, I've got to figure it out. It would be incredibly
honestly,
obvious. Typically that exists in sand, not in native soil anyway.
Yeah, so my soil, I would say it's more of like a sandy loam.
Yeah, you're coastal.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even aerate this year. I mean, it's not compacted at all. I use some of that brown, liquid aeration products throughout the year, and I didn't feel the need to aerate, my lawn. I know a lot of people recommend that, to do that in the fall time, but I just dethatched in the overseed from my disaster after, early July, and threw my seed down in September, and it came in well. Just kept it water, kept it moist, and it came in pretty good.
Yeah, aeration does not germinate seed. For anybody out there listening, that is not the magic. You can germinate grass in an aeration hole. You can germinate grass next to an aeration hole. You can germinate grass in a paper towel. You can germinate grass in the concrete. You can germinate grass in grass using grass seed. You can germinate grass seed inside of grass seed. Take a pile of grass seed, just keep it wet, and I promise it's going to start growing. You don't need starter fertilizer to get it to come up. You don't need fertilizer for it to come up. It's I think everybody in school took a bean and put it in a damn a wet paper towel and germinated the thing. Right? This is not rocket science. You need adequate temperatures, adequate moisture, and depending on the variety of plant, you may or may not need sun. So there you go. That is the only thing you need to get things going. And I'll tell you that the way genetics have progressed, that initial seedling vigor has become so intense and so responsive. The idea of needing something additional to get it going is asinine at best. All right. So Ryan, you have a phrase about growing grass through the spring and then growing grass until summer or through summer. And it's this catchy little thing that, so and so can grow grass, through.
Oh yeah, my
May or
dead
whatever,
grandmother can
and
grow grass. After that, you need a
Tell us
professional.
that, and then let's talk about what is going on. Let's talk about your month of July moving forward, Joe.
So yeah, the saying is that my dead grandmother can grow grass up until Memorial Day. After that, you need a professional, right? The 100 days of hell from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I'll let Joe speak on this, but to quantify it, I went back and looked. So Philadelphia averages. I did Camden actually because Philly's a little bit hotter. So I did Camden, which is just across the river there. So they average 21 90-degree days or warmer, so 90 plus. This year, from June 1 to August 31, y'all had 32 days above 90. So it was a hot summer, and if I remember correctly, after counting up, 24 of those were after the 4th of July, on or after the 4th of July. So you had a hot summer. Maybe it didn't feel like it. Maybe, trust me. That's why you quantify this stuff.
I have a pool, so it doesn't always.
Well, no,
feel
seriously,
that way.
I do this all the time. I'm sure these guys do too. Where Ray, it's probably because of when it's cool or when it's humid, but you think, oh yeah, it wasn't that bad, and you go back and look at it, you're like, oh shit, like it was bad, and that's why keeping data, keeping records is important.
Speaking to that, I must be a damned weirdo because I know the difference, for example, between 70 degrees and 90 degrees and 80 degrees and even down to 60 degrees. I know the difference. Whereas for most people, they don't pay attention very much. And I unload on them. I say, of course it doesn't matter to you because you have what I call the garage door syndrome. And let me describe the garage door syndrome to you. This is the garage door syndrome, Joe. They get up in the morning in their centrally AC'd house. Yep. They step into their car. They drive to their office. And their office has a covered parking. They take the elevator up to their office. Then they go back down at the end of the workday, drive back home, garage door slams shut after them, and then they go back into their AC'd house. So they have no concept of conditions. So they have no idea that, for example, it's, say, 90 degrees and humid outside. They also have no damn concept that it's opposite situation, which is relevant to me, 60 degrees outside. But for me, what I'm kind of paying attention to is what I look at is extremes of temperatures, and also I look at what are the limits of tolerance for the kind of grass that are typically growing in the neighborhood. And when Ryan said something about more than 5 days of 90-degree weather, I immediately thought, bye-bye fescue. I immediately thought that, okay? And especially
it's funny you say that because my neighborhood is very diverse. Like it's
Mm.
the guy across the street from me, he's got zoysia grass, and obviously that thrives in the summertime. His lawn's the greenest on the block. And then the person next to me, they got mostly tall fescue, but there is definitely in Jersey, there's a mixture of zoysia is a very common grass to see in the area. As opposed and as an alternate to like say tall fescue and KVGs per se.
Sure. And the reason why that can work is because this is zoysia. It's near death if temperature goes below 70 degrees. However, from 70 degrees to 100 degrees, as long as you've got that water going, it is slamming.
Yeah.
However, the flip side to that is I'm going to guess that the zoysia lawns are the first to go brown in the fall and the last lawns to green up in the spring. But the good part about that is the kind of turf grass that holds up no matter how brutal your summer is.
It's like we say, it's literally in an area like Philadelphia, Ray, and you can attest to this. You understand what it's like, but you got to answer this question for yourself. I'm going to let you pick which 3 months that your grass is going to look like absolute dog shit. You tell me that, and we'll pick your species. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And I can attest to that as well, where I tell people your choice of grass determines if your grass goes through a bad period and how long your grass goes through a bad period. I mean, in my case, I tell people, here's the reality. For example, you know what zoysia's bad period is here in Hawaii? From November until April. That's zoysia's bad period.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Hey,
I mean, the guy across the street from me with the zoysia, he might be out there like, I don't know. It seems like almost every other day cutting his lawn in the summertime. It's funny, and he's got this old Honda. He's got this old Honda rotary mower, and it takes him like 4 hours to cut his lawn. He's an older gentleman, but he loves to cut his grass in the summertime in the heat.
Gosh.
Oh God.
No fun about that. Well, hey, listen, let's move into this, before we're not rushing you, but before we have to get out of here about let's talk about the organic thing and the weed control and all that. I just want I'm serious. It's an issue, and I'm telling you, you're not the only one. I was talking to him
before the show, and I was like, I don't even know what to say about it. So, no, you go ahead. I'm here to listen.
You're gonna catch us from the trust tree.
Do you want to hear my take on it?
Yeah.
Hey, trust fall here. We'll catch you as you close your eyes and just lay back on the ladder. We got you.
And then rip this
arms out.
All right. So my take on obviously, if you guys follow my channel, I was originally organic lawn warrior. My take on the whole organic thing was I try to lose less chemicals in my lawn. Like I was saying, my wife, she doesn't like herbicides in our lawn. So initially when I did my first overseed, instead of killing it off with say glyphosate or Roundup, I use vinegar. And I was trying to look for I guess you could say I know the organic term is a very, not everyone agrees with that term at the end of the day, but I was trying to use something that's less. When she hears herbicide, she thinks cancer. And I think a lot of people out there, hear that, herbicide means cancer. And I try to tell her all the time that, it's not at the end of the day. And, you guys had Castleberry on for probably about a month ago. And I love his term, label is law. when it comes to herbicides, and I agree with them, and if it was me, I wouldn't be opposed to using them. But at the end of the day, I love my wife. I'm going to, at the end of the day, I'm going to listen to her, what she wants me to do. And that's why she was okay with me using more just, regular fertilizers at the end of the day, which some of the fertilizers that I've used in the past, from the gentleman that sells them from Florida, I mean, they might not be the greatest fertilizers, but, that was my approach to the system. I originally purchased a lawn care program that was a hybrid organic program, and that's what I went off of. I didn't know any better, like I said, this is more of just a hobby for me. I'm not a professional like you guys when it comes down to it, and I was just going off of someone else's recommendations, and in my eyes, I felt like I was doing a better thing for the environment, I guess you could say, not using, that kind of stuff in my lawn. But since it's gotten so controversial and people don't see my view of, using herbicides in my lawn and using just fertilizers in general, I kind of just dropped the name and just went, with the lawn warrior now. So, and just at the end of the day, I just want to be better for the environment. I kind of want to do better for the environment. We are for the most part, my family, I hate using that term, but because I know a lot of people don't like it, but we are a pretty organic, family. My wife, we have a compost bin in the back. We try and compost as much as we do with our scraps, for food and things like that. We take that compost, we put it back into our garden. We have a garden every year. And, we grow things from seed. We don't go out to the stores. We don't buy the plants already, already sprouted out of the ground. We grow everything ourselves from seed when it comes to our garden. And we try and, in the summertime, especially, Jersey, they're very known for their tomatoes. Jersey tomatoes are the best. And
peaches.
We try and grow peaches, blueberries, you name it.
Blueberries.
Where the gardens stay for the reason, for a reason.
Yeah.
And but we try to be as environmentally friendly as we can, when it comes down to things. We try not to use plastic bags. We try to use reusable bags when we can. That's just our family. That's what we kind of try to do. And that's why the organic name was there in the beginning, and that's why now I've taken it off. But that's just my take on the organic thing. I just try to be more environmentally friendly as I can, when it comes down to it.
Joe,
that's admirable.
That's an admirable thing, and I can tell you that I view myself actually as an environmentalist as well. I actually am an environmentalist.
He's on the watch list now, boys. Look out.
He is on the watch list and an environmentalist in the same breath. And I know where you're going with this, Ray. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And the reason why I can say that is I always look at the total global impact of all of my practices and everything I do. And I look at it through this lens. How much time, energy, materials does this practice consume? Because here's where I'm going to get triggered. I'm going to get triggered when somebody touts something as being environmentally correct, but whatever they're doing consumes a massive amount of resources to perform. Okay? I'm going to get triggered and I'm going to call them out on their bullshit. Okay? I'm going to say, yeah, you didn't apply fertilizers or herbicides, but look at how much fossil fuels you are consuming to perform that same operation that you could have been over and done with. How does that help the environment? It don't. Tell yourself the truth, first of all. don't lie to yourself.
And I think that's
Yeah,
the point. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, my wife says it to me all the time. She's like, well, "You just don't do anything to the lawn." I mean, that's the most. That's the best thing you could do. You could do. That's the most environmentally friendly when it comes down to it. And I'm like, yeah, but do you want me? I tell her all the time, do you want me to start over again each year? And not do anything to it. And because that's kind of how I felt this year. Essentially, I started completely over again. And you spend even more money. To start over again. And then that's not what I want to do next year. I don't want to start over again.
Well, Joe,
the good news for you is that actually that's not the most environmentally friendly thing, because we have to remember that plants are particularly special in the sense that they are carbon absorbing machines, and they take carbon dioxide, convert it into energy, and give us back oxygen in such a very harmonious and symbiotic relationship with humans, right? And however, what we as humans have been able to figure out is that through supplying appropriate amounts of fuel to these plants, is that we can maximize the rate of photosynthesis and therefore carbon sequestration and oxygen production from these plants. And so, a plant that is fertilized appropriately and the amount of vigor and growth is maintained to a healthy state, then you're actually producing a net positive end result by having a nice, highly productive lawn versus something that sits there stagnant, that thins out and becomes weedy, with plants that are not chooching photosynthesis at the same rates as your turf grasses are. So, that's the advantage you have working there, and I highly recommend you have that conversation with your wife and do so nicely, because let me tell you, there's one woman in this world I do not want to piss off, and that's my wife too. She may be a little tiny Japanese woman, but she kicks my ass once a week, whether I need it or not, and I do need it. So I get it. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
But I just want to put that out there, and you can share that with her and let her research it and all that fun stuff too, so she feels a little bit more comfortable with what you're doing. But
I even pinpointed her to your video that you did about glyphosate. It's an older video, I think, on your channel that you did about I forget what the exact topic was. I think you were talking about somebody that died from, I forget if they were applying it wrong or they were just around it too much. It's an older video, I think, on your channel.
Well, that was
the glyphosate case in California, the first one that made it to trial with Rodney the applicator, and he had died from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and the trial was glyphosate the root cause of the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, or was it just a stroke of bad luck? And they went to trial, and of course, glyphosate lost that trial, but not because I read the entire court transcript, and it was a very, very emotional trial because Rodney was an exceptionally awesome human being. And as humans know, death is tragic, especially unexpected death is extremely tragic, and cancer is a horrific thing. In trying to make sense of why someone that is such a highly productive member of society could die or become so ill. He has not passed, by the way, but could become so ill and lose so many years of his life with his family without explanation. As humans, we try to reason and provide answers to that, because it's tragedy, right? And tragedy deserves a reason. And a lot of times, especially when dealing with these terminal illnesses, there are no good answers that we can come up with, and it becomes an emotional decision over what actually is the catalyst behind this. And if you read the trial transcripts and the data that is put forth, and it goes in real deep with the IARC and how that original study came about and the epidemiology that went into it. It's a very, very shaky case to correlate non-Hodgkin's lymphoma with glyphosate exposure, especially the limited amount of exposure that guy had, which is a fraction of the amount of exposure that the majority of pesticide applicators would be exposed to over a longer period of time, right? So, anyway, it's controversial, it's charged, and it's incredibly emotional. But if you feel like just absolutely evaporating a week of your life, read through the trial transcript. It's actually very interesting.
Yeah, it's a real good read. And going further than that, we have to understand that a lot of the current pesticides that are even on the market, they have been so thoroughly screened for carcinogenic potential that I consider them essentially at minimal to no risk of causing that. And do you know why I can say that, Joe?
Because you use them.
No, it is because I literally come from a time when a pesticide on the market would literally either kill you right away or kill you later. And the honest truth is that by year 2000, most of those products that had that tendency or propensity all got yanked off the market ASAP. And the reason why I say that is because I've been around agricultural pesticides since the 1980s and turf and ornamental pesticides since the 1990s. In other words, I'm an old man. I'm kind of an old man. But
Joe,
so
we are gonna go ahead, Ray.
So what my point is that when somebody says, "Oh my God, this causes cancer," I have to pause because I knew all of the, suspect and definitive carcinogens, and they all got rapidly yanked off the market by year 2000. I mean, yanked. The first call came, I think, in the late 1980s, early 90s. Second call happened in year 2000. So put that into perspective when somebody in modern times acts like their damn hair is on fire saying, "Oh, pesticides are going to cause cancer." Think about that.
All right. We are going to have to wrap this up. Joe, do you have any final questions for us?
No final questions. I just want to thank you guys, Ryan, Matt, and Ray, for having me on tonight. And I didn't want to do any kind of shout outs during the time, and I just want to, Ryan, I just want to thank, I just want to thank everyone that did, that I've reached out to, that are down in the chat below for watching tonight. And again, thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for having the courage to come on. Seriously, I know
it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder than it looks. Honestly, I was pretty. I'll just say I was pretty nervous. Like it was like 8 o'clock, and you're going on the pre-show, and I was like, shit, man. I was sweating a little bit there, So.
Well, you did great. It was a great show, and again, I know the sacrifices you're making to be on here, professionally and all that fun stuff through your YouTube careers is a damning thing to do. So, thanks for having the courage and taking the risk, and we appreciate that very much. we are going to head over to the after show. And if you're interested in more content that comes from us, and JPink actually had a very interesting statistic for us here. And the statistic is, let me scroll up here. Oh, JPink, do you have it on hand? Because I'm scrolling and trying to read at the same time, and I'm not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, so I based it off of running times from Burn and Return. In 9 episodes of Burn and Return, we have generated 29 hours, 31 minutes, and 25 seconds of content. So you're talking a 12-hour movie each month at a minimum for whatever tier you join, and that's only Burn and Return. That doesn't even include Thirsty Thursday.
For the price of a beer, you get that much additional content, and a lot of that does not make it onto the air because it can it's for the people that support us. We want to support them, and if they want to hear us talk, then damn it, we're going to talk, and we're going to talk about things that people want to hear us talk about. If that interests you, you can head over to Burn and Return. I'm sorry, patreon.com/Burn and Return. And you can check out the show after the show. The way that works is that there will be a link for 10 minutes and 10 minutes alone. And after that 10 minutes, you will never be able to see it again. I'll never be able to see it again. It gets deleted. It's gone. It's into the atmosphere, into gigaspace. Maybe in the metaverse one day we'll find it again. But we are not there yet. Therefore, we will not see it. Or you can become a channel subscriber, a channel member here as well. However, let's not support Google. Let's support independent creators. Head to patreon.com/Burn and Return. And also, when we reach 69 patrons, we're going to start doing a movie night because for those of you that know me personally know, I do not watch movies. And so this will be me having to become a normal member of society. And I'm not going to lie, I absolutely dread it because I hate movies. And but it's okay. You know what? I do it for the patrons and for no other reason whatsoever. We're going to head on over to the after show. If you are not a fan of adult talk, adult humor, bad words, controversial topics, it's probably not for you, and that is perfectly okay. That is perfectly okay. If you're into that and you do want more content from us, then feel free. Head over. We'll be over there. We'll be checking out some fun things, having some laughs, and having a good time with it. We'll catch y'all on the live recording on Thursdays. Burn and Return. Zapow! Zapow.